Hello, Mr. Commissioner Burrell. All right, we about ready? Is there, Mr. Clerk, is there anyone out there ready?
We have a couple more commissioners walking in. They're walking in right now.
Okay.
Here, call them up. I'll bring you these public comments.
Thank you.
It's all over CPCWS.
All right. It is 3:30 on August 1st. I'd like to call this Caddo Parish Commission meeting to order. Mr. Clerk, could we please have a roll call?
Commissioner Hopkins.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Burrell.
Here.
Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Gage Watts. Commissioner Talaferro.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Atkins.
Here.
Commissioner Chavez.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Here.
And Commissioner Epperson. All right, I'm counting 8 of 12 present at the moment, though I do understand that there are 3 more that are just outside the chamber that may join us momentarily. The 8 of 12 is a quorum.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Let's see, Commissioner Talaferro, can I trouble you for the invocation? And Commissioner Burrell, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? All stand, please.
And let us pray. Heavenly Father, O God, thank you for the opportunity to be your public servants, serve you and the people for your kingdom's glory. Lord, bless those who are less fortunate than ourselves. Bless those who are in harm's way, protecting our freedoms. In this we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Attention flag, please. Military first responders, hands proud. Everyone else, hands over heart.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Talaferro. Thank you, Commissioner Burrell.
Okay, I'm not aware of any agenda additions unless you had any today, Mr. President.
I'm not aware of any either.
Okay. Then we'll move forward to citizens' comments, where citizens are asked to sign out a comment card form. These are located in the chamber foyer and can be returned right here at my left. Individual comments are limited to 3 minutes, and those cards that have already been received have been submitted to the chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Ms. Peoples, feel free to come on up. Thank you for coming down to the commission today, Ms. Peoples.
Thank you. I'm happy to see my favorite commissioners. How y'all doing today?
Fine.
My name is Brika Peoples. I'm the founder of the People's Promise and also the Louisiana State Actionist. I'm coming to you all today to support a Resolution 37 sponsored by Stephen Jackson. The past 2 months, the electric bill has been double, almost triple than normal. The citizens in Caddo are being charged double for fuel costs. Our elders are on a fixed income and can't afford this bill. So I'm requesting you all to support Stephen Jackson Resolution 37 and try to come up with a plan with SWEPCO for the future, because we fight and we in pride. We can't afford this high bill. It's higher than our mortgage. You see y'all electric bill. I know my electric bill. I know y'all's too. So make sure y'all support this Resolution 37. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Peoples. Ms. Sabbath? Welcome, Ms. Sabbath.
Thank you. Good seeing you guys. I called the commissioner's office and asked for explanation about my electricity bill. I've been in the same home for 20 years. My high bill in the summer month is $250. It is now $550. I was told that SWEPCO is charging us for the fuel. The cost of fuel that they have to pay, they're giving it to the customers. So they said that this matter was voted on. So I don't know who it benefits, but it didn't benefit the customers. My mother-in-law's on a fixed income. She cannot afford to pay for her electricity bill. She lives across the street from me. Now her bill is $550. She's only bringing home $8-something. She's retired. So something is wrong. SWEPCO is extorting the customers. I'm being charged for electricity that we are not using. This is criminal. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to remind the audience, during citizens' comments, we can listen, we can't reply or respond to inquiries, but there will be some discussion of these topics later on the agenda. Okay, Mr. Clerk.
All right, that brings us to visitors, where conveniently we may have a representative from SWEPCO. I believe SWEPCO has Mike Corbin is here.
Come on up, Mr. Corbin.
Thank you, President Atkins. Michael Corbin, External Affairs Manager for SWEPCO. I have with me Vice President of External Affairs, Brian Bond, today. We are certainly ready to talk and answer some questions about high bills. If it would be helpful, I know Commissioner Jackson has a resolution and he's not in the room. If you'd like us to wait and come back up when he's back in the room, we can certainly do that.
Well, this is the point in the agenda where you're slated, so we better go ahead and cover it now.
Okay. Well, we're always happy to be here and talk about what's going on at the electric company. And, you know, we certainly understand that bills are high. I'm going to use an example of my bill. I live in an average house, 2,100 square feet. Last June 8th to July 7th, my bill, I used 2,018 kilowatt hours. The fuel charge was $74.84. That same period this year, where we're approaching, I think, 30 days of 100-degree temperatures, I used 2,314 kilowatt hours, same house, same people live in there, same settings on the thermostat, and the fuel charge went from $74.84 to $144.64. As you know, we're regulated by the Public Service Commission. Our fuel charges are passed on directly to the customer. There's no markup in that. We make no profit off fuel charge. The fuel charge that the customers see reflected on their bill is the fuel that we paid for and used to generate electricity. So bills are high because the price of natural gas has more than doubled from a year ago. While that's good for our local economy and those of us who have connections to the oil and gas business, when you talk about cost of generating electricity, about 40 to 45% of our power is generated by natural gas, and those costs have gone up. We believe there is some relief in sight, that the price is going to begin to tick down on natural gas, which will help us a little bit, and certainly be passed directly on to our customers. There are a number of things that we do to help our customers. One of the first things that we would recommend is for everybody to sign up for average monthly billing, so you don't have huge spikes in the summertime when it's hot. We'll take your bill and average it over 12 months, and it helps you with budgeting. That's easy to do on our website at swepco.com. We have other payment programs that have been utilized throughout the time of COVID and following the winter storm last year, where if someone is behind on their bills, there's some extensions that we can do. There's some payment plans that we can offer. You know, a number of people have contacted us saying, well, why don't you just suspend or let people, you know, suspend your disconnects and let people not pay their bill for a while. One of the things that we learned during COVID is that put more of a burden on majority of our customers because they got so far behind that they could never catch up and are still attempting to catch up. As I said earlier, we're regulated by the Public Service Commission. In times like this where we have heat advisory day after day, we're not allowed to do disconnects. And we've not done disconnects now for months for that reason. I mean, that's the, Commissioner Campbell and the other commissioners make it very clear that during extremely cold weather, extremely hot weather, it's not the right thing to do disconnects. There are a number of programs also
Just to be
available.
clear, you said you can't do disconnects during extreme weather, right?
Correct. There's a number of other programs that customers can take part in. There are some weatherization programs that are available to homeowners. Unfortunately, can't do that if you're leasing or renting your home. There are appliance rebates. There are smart thermostat rebates. We will reimburse you $70 each for up to 2 smart thermostats in your home. I'll just say, quite truthfully, we get calls about high bills, and we will send somebody out to look at what's going on in a house sometime, and it's very unfortunate to go in a house with leaky windows, no insulation, 3 or 4 window units all owned, and they're using a lot of power. And unfortunately, electricity is one of those things that we can adjust somewhat. If we're not at home, don't have the air conditioner running quite as cold, but that makes it, not everybody can do that. It's difficult for some people. What are we doing to offset this? We're adding more and more renewables to our mix of generation. We just brought some wind energy online just a few months ago. We have some large solar projects that are underway right now, and additional wind projects that are out for RFP. Wind and solar don't have a fuel charge associated with them. So the more renewable energy we're producing, there won't be a fuel charge. So that will help to save customers money as well. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute, and I'm sure there's some questions.
Any questions for Mr. Corbin?
I don't think that the board is working.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, who has a question?
I did. Oh.
Commissioner Gage Watts, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Corbin, for coming down. We appreciate your service. My question is in relation to suspending the accounts that are past due. You mentioned that there has not been any cutoffs because of the 100+ temperatures. Could you elaborate on that? And is there any way that if it's 103 today and 97 tomorrow, does those have to be consecutive days of excessive temperatures before its service is suspended, or is that across the board?
Sure, that's a fair question, and like there's supposed to be a little cutback in temperatures this week. We monitor that, and we stay in contact with Commissioner Campbell. If there's going to be a temporary break for 3 or 4 days, but then the excessive heat is expected to come back, we're not going to run out and try to do 50 disconnects, because we don't want to do disconnects. We want to find a way to keep the power on, to keep people comfortable, and work with them on their bill just as much as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burrell.
Well, Commissioner Gage Watts, I might have taken one of my questions. I was going to ask Mike, good to see you. How do you determine the extreme days and the duration? But I think that's probably in line with what she's saying. But if there is a break, how do you look at it overall? Is it 10 days, 20 days, 5 days?
It's longer than a few days, and generally we're talking more months, because again, we don't want to have to do disconnects, and we want to find a way to work with that customer, find a way that they can get on an installment plan, encourage them to get on average monthly billing, or some way. For us, disconnect is last resort.
Okay. Well, the next question, according to the national news, oil companies are making record profits. How, in terms of purchasing fuel, do y'all have any influence on pricing or negotiations or what have you?
We can negotiate, and we do some long-term negotiations, but natural gas has been so volatile the past year that's why we've seen those prices increase and have to pay whatever that current price is.
Okay. But since y'all buy such volume, y'all don't have any particular influence.
No.
All right, my last question, Mr. President, is on safety. I've made a couple of calls concerning tree limbs because it's so dry, they are breaking and falling on lines. And I'm advising anyone that where you have that situation to stay away from that. Although it may be dry, there may be some, a live tree or some live part of it. I'll assume that you all are way behind because I turned in one, not only I called in, I left a message on your service because I happen to know you. And it's now been right at 2 months. So I know that you all run behind on maintenance. But I'm concerned that someone will get into it and you all will be liable. I don't see myself liable, but just wanted to ask you about that since you're here.
We do tree trimming every day, and we have an annual budget for tree trimming. We address emergency situations. The last couple of weeks, we've had, afternoon thunderstorms come through, and most of the outages from that are caused by tree limbs or entire trees that have fallen into lines out of the right-of-way. So tree trimming is something that we pay attention to. We have to evaluate when we get requests. We'll evaluate, is this an issue that we need to address now? Can we put it off 6 months? Can we put it off a year to deal with more critical situations? But if you want to send me that again after the meeting today, then I'll be glad to get back with you on exactly where that stands.
I see that on, I can see that on open lines, long lines, because as you know, I was in the utility business for 20
Sure.
years. But whenever you're talking about in front of a residence that's falling on a drop line or a power line that's going where kids can get into it, I would assume it would take some priority. But doesn't.
Yeah, and we get a lot of calls from customers and elected officials there's trees in the line at XYZ Street, please go look at it. And I do, or one of our foresters goes and looks at it. And a lot of times, the vegetation is not impacting the electric lines, it's impacting the communications lines on the pole. So that causes a bit of confusion sometimes. If there's a limb on your drop, then we can assist you with disconnecting that drop and having the limb removed. But our crews aren't going to come into the yard and service a limb that's fallen on the drop from the pole to the house.
Okay, well, you get another call.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Burrell. I think Commissioner Jones, you were on the verbal before we got back up on the board, so go ahead, Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple of questions here for you, Mr. Corbin. You're saying you can't disconnect in extreme temperatures or weathers. Are there any legal loopholes or legal protections for the customer for that? So, for instance, if we're under a heat advisory, that would probably mean that between certain hours that you couldn't disconnect, but would that protect you from going early in the morning and disconnecting someone?
Yeah, if there's a heat advisory for Tuesday, we're not doing disconnects all day Tuesday.
But that would have them subject to be disconnected Wednesday if there's no heat advisory?
Not until there has been clear of heat advisory for a number of days.
Okay. Are you familiar with what that time frame is?
It can often be up to 2 to 3 months before we're going to do a disconnect due to non-payment.
Okay. What's more, is that more of like a realistic timeline, or is 2 or 3 weeks, 2 or 3 consecutive days?
It is more in the months because, again, we want to keep that power on. We want to find a way to work with that customer.
Okay. All right. And the other thing, you mentioned that wind energy is online. What areas is wind energy servicing, or is that?
We have wind that provides power in Louisiana and Arkansas right now, and there is a percentage of electricity that's in this room today that's powered by wind energy.
Okay, so it's kind of, I guess I would say, spread across the board to bring fuel costs down across the entire
Yes.
area, not just one particular cluster.
Correct.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, Commissioner Jones. Our president stepped out. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Acting President. Kind of piggyback, so I hear what you're saying about you all, but there's no standard operating procedure on disconnects. What I'm hearing is you all may or you may not. When there's because if the heat advisory, I've never seen a month's heat advisory. If the heat advisory goes out, because what we're dealing with is not just the heat. So I don't want folks to just focus on the heat, but there's also some issues with folks having the ability to pay their bill. I can tell you as recently as last Wednesday morning, I got a call from a 60-year-old senior resident, and I can play the audio file right here that says she's gonna be disconnected. And we were on the heat advisory last week, and she got the automated call saying that she was gonna be disconnected, which basically prompted this legislation. So I don't want you to think that's why I reached out to, I see Brian back there, that's why I reached out to ask if y'all could come down and shot you a copy of the resolution. I didn't intend for this to be anything adversarial, but this is just a request that we have something streamlined, articulated to the public that says during these, one, extreme heat measures or heat climate environment that we're in, we're not going to do disconnections right now, but two, with the issue of the billings, until there's some consistency or there's something where we can do, where we could help folks with their bills, that we're not going to disconnect. And so I think it's important for everybody to get on the same page and not necessarily have a sort of laissez-faire approach to it, which is all I'm trying to accomplish here is some type of coordinated approach to what we're doing. But I'm more than happy to play the automated message, which I went over to her house and listened to last week, and she's well into the upper 60s and has medical conditions that can't afford to be in the heat like that, or just the threat of anxiety of being cut off, I think is problematic. So again, that's my concern.
Well, and Commissioner, like I've said multiple times here,
Well,
we are not doing disconnects during the heat advisory.
Right.
And during this weather. Someone may have gotten an automated call. That's possible. And if you would share that customer's information with me via email after the meeting, I'd appreciate that.
Right.
I can look into it and give you a response.
Right.
But again, we don't want to do disconnects.
Right.
Disconnects are the last thing that we want to do. And you know, if the customer got a call like that, we would hope they would call in, because we leave a number to call, and let's try to find a way to keep that service active and to work that bill out.
Right.
and get some payments going.
Well, she was one who was able to get to me, but there may be more out there, is my concern. And that's why I'm saying I think a more streamlined, consistent, coordinated, all hands on deck approach to this is where I would like to see us go. And so I don't want anybody to think that this is something adversarial. She was able to get to me. I was able to stop by just and you've been a representative government. You can't get to everybody.
Sure.
And so if you've got one out there, I assume that there are others out there that probably got a call or are getting calls about disconnection notices that are going out. And so that's what initially made this legislation be brought forward. But I appreciate y'all's work. I appreciate our feedback. I think also we haven't talked about when we talk about costs, we haven't talked about the late fees and penalties and reconnections. Will they still be responsible for those reconnection fees and those late fees?
At this time, yes.
Right, and so
But
that's what
again-
we're trying to.
But again, we're going to work with every customer
Right.
as close as we
Right.
can, to make sure that they keep their service.
Right.
To make sure that they have an affordable way to get caught up. I
Right.
mean, we're a business as well.
And
We worked very closely with the parish and with the commission on the rental and utility assistance funds, gave access to our systems, and that made a huge impact for hundreds, probably
Right.
thousands of people. I hope that the parish is successful in getting some more of that money from the state. Understand there's a big chunk that's sitting in Baton Rouge.
Right.
And I think that would certainly help many of our citizens again. So I hope that
and
rest
that's
will see
why
that through.
that's why I'm proposing this because that's got to go to Treasury. They've got to promulgate. And if you saw on Friday, they just changed the rules for that last tranche, that big tranche.
Mm-hmm.
It could be used for something else that's not utility assistance anymore. It could be used for construction and rehab now. So I saw an email last night at 9 o'clock where you've got developers who are looking in the New Orleans area, in the Gulf Coast area, looking to say, give us that money to handle rising insurance rates and interest rates. And so there's going to be a fight for that money, so it's not guaranteed now. So we got to fight to get that. So that's what I'm saying. Hopefully we all can get on one accord to move forward with this. And again, Brian, Michael, and everybody else, I don't want y'all to think that this is anything adversarial. I want us to approach this from a community perspective. So I appreciate you.
Certainly, and if we can help with that fight, let us
We'll be
let us
calling.
know what we can do.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. Michael, thanks for coming down. You've always been extremely responsive every time I've reached out to represent Southern Hills. Sorry, you're the only person I know at AEP, so you're the one that always gets all the calls.
That's it. That's okay.
A lot of the other commissioners already took my question in regards to the extreme temperatures. One thing I wanted to ask is, like you said, the average monthly billing. Can you send all those over to us so that Crystal we can release a PSA
Yes.
to maybe help all our citizens on how to do the reduction? One thing that I have heard though is there's a 2-hour wait time when people are calling SWEPCO. Naturally, so if your bill is doubled or tripled, you're going to call to find out what's going on. I don't know if on your on hold you have some type of music or some type of message that sends them to the website to let them know what's going on, or something to let them know what's happening and why it's like that. And I don't know if you know that or not.
We have multiple call centers, and ideally, all of the local calls go to the Shreveport call center. We all know what's going on in Kentucky right now with the flooding and the severe damage up there, and that's an AEP operating company in Kentucky, where we have about 30,000 people out of power right now. And so if there are other things going on within the AEP system, sometimes that can add to wait times. And quite honestly, some of our wait times are a little exaggerated right now just because we can't get enough people to work. It's the same issue that everybody has. But we're working very hard on that to make those call times shorter. Many times you have an option of leaving a number and getting in a queue, and we'll call you back. So I would encourage people to do that. But we're trying to respond as quickly as we can with everything that's going on within our system.
Another question, in regards to the commission voting and the Public Service Commissioner, a lot of people, they get the government entities confused. And we've got that a lot. I've received some emails that, hey, y'all voted on raising our. Can you touch on that, like when the Public Service Commissioner in Baton Rouge can vote on an increase and who they are?
Well, the local Public Service Commissioner, of course, is Foster Campbell, has an office on Texas Street. And I think there are 5 commissioners across the state. They have agendas for their monthly meeting, and utilities can bring cases to them at any meeting. And generally, it's a multi-month process where if we were going to go and say we want to raise our base rate, then there's hearings that are held, there's studies that are done, groups are able to come back and comment, and it could be 6 to 12 months later before the commission makes a ruling on that. But the way that we operate, what our base rates are, if we're going to add new generation, whether it be coal, natural gas, or renewables, all that in our service area has to be approved by the Public Service Commission.
On that point, I know we're doing the wind plant in Oklahoma. Has that increased our local bills to offset the initiation of that cost?
There is a wind facility rider that you'll see on your bill that covers the cost of building the wind farms. That will more than offset, well, let's see, because you're saving so much fuel on the wind, that rider that covers the construction of that is completely covered by the savings that you'd have in fuel charges.
Above the savings and after the wind farm is complete, do you think the citizens that have invested in that wind farm will also get a reduction in the bill as sort of an ROI because we're investing in the operation of AEP?
When the wind farm is paid off, then that rider goes away. And so then any energy that is brought into our system by that wind farm, then there's just absolutely no fuel charge. It's all just base rate charges.
Okay. President, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Chavez. Commissioner Talfero.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mike, for coming down. I appreciate it. It's always good to see you. I know that during the last COVID moratorium that we initiated, or the government initiated, would it be safe to say that the utility bills increased during that time, or do you have any statistics that says after the moratorium our energy usage went up before the moratorium was initiated?
That's an interesting question, and I think there's multiple ways to answer it. During COVID, again, I'll use my house as an example. I have smart thermostats that generally at 8 o'clock would bump the temperature up 4 or 5 degrees. 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it would cool it back off. I was home a good bit. My wife was home a good bit. So many of our households during COVID had people there all the time. So if you were trying to use a smart thermostat, you didn't necessarily get advantage of that. Now there are more people who have decided to be entrepreneurs, work from home. So I think you have many more households that have people there all the time. And you know, we live in the South, we want to be comfortable. But probably, you know, other than personal choices like that, Commissioner Talfero, the big thing is just the price of natural gas rising over the past year.
Yeah, one of my biggest concerns is obviously I'd like to find, you know, some way to meet in the middle with all this stuff, and I know that there may or may not be a way to do that. One of my concerns is that if you have any kind of moratorium, it doesn't free me as the customer from the debt, correct?
Correct.
Alrighty. So if I buy a car and it's 3 months without a payment, I can expect that 3-month payment somewhere within that contract. My concern is that a moratorium, if this is the route that we go, we will be saddling our citizens with more debt, and possibly a debt that could never be paid off. And if there is federal dollars coming in our way, that is just, it's not like it's here tomorrow and we can spend it and reimburse you for the services that you've extended to our residents. So I guess my biggest concern is like that while it sounds like a great idea, my concern is that at 3 months, I'm still going to have 3 months worth of debt now and still trying to pay it off. So in your experience, do you have any statistics or any kind of knowledge that says that after the last COVID moratorium, we still have people paying off their electric bills from then?
We have a combination of two things. We had people who were able to take advantage of the rental and utility assistance program and get current on their utilities.
But if it wasn't for that, they would still be.
They would still be behind. And there are people who did not qualify for that program who are still on payment plans trying to get caught up. So you're exactly right. While it sounds good initially, it really is going to take a lot of talking it through, working it through, and making sure that we all understand what's on the backside.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Telfair. Commissioner Burrell, second time.
Yes, sir. I have two questions. I've noticed that there's been some major construction going on some of your grids and power line. I'll give you an example.
Right.
The Country Club Lakeshore route going west. My question is, does that affect our local, annual local bill during the construction period?
No, we do ongoing improvement work as part of our business plan. And while rates pay for that, there's no increase because you see a project going on in Shreveport. There's not a specific Shreveport increase there. We currently have the project you're talking about from our Flournoy substation to our Hardy substation, where that transmission line is being improved. We are about to kick off another transmission project from Line Avenue substation by A.B. Palmer Park to the Fern substation on the Fern extension. We're doing a lot of work right now with transmission in DeSoto Parish and southeast Shreveport. So there's ongoing work that's been planned for years.
So that's not
but that
absorbed
does
in our
not
annual
that does
cost.
not impact Shreveport's rates because we've got a lot of work going in.
Okay. Well, that's it for you, Mike. Mr. President, I want you to know that I did invite Public Service Commissioner Foster Campbell here, although this was a short notice. We're hoping to get him on Thursday to answer some questions. I know I sent an email to Jeff to invite him.
Great.
So I don't know where that is. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner
Mike.
Burrell. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, like as we've been sitting here, someone texted me at Southwood Village Apartments and said that they were cut off last week. It was 103 degrees. So again, there's another example. And again, I know you'll say, well, give me that number, give me that address.
Yep.
And we can do this on a spot or case-by-case basis. But that is an example of one of those reasons why I think something sort of across the board, I think is where I'm trying to get us to go. Because if you can get to me, if you can get to a commissioner up here, you can have, and we can get to you, then we can have that. But you got somebody who just texted me, said that they were cut off last week at Southwood Village Apartment.
And Commissioner, I don't know the circumstances of that, who the customer is. Oftentimes, at many of our multi-family housing units, the power may be in the name of either the owner-operator of that apartment and not the tenant. And we've had that at Woodlawn Terrace, I think, about a year ago, where the administration or the administrator of that facility asked us to disconnect a number of people.
And I'm asking that we wouldn't, even if that administrator, because people are living there, and that's just
If the
inhumane.
account is not in the customer's name, that creates a whole another set of issues which we
Absolutely.
can talk about. But as with the lady who gave you the voice, or you recorded the voicemail, if you'll send me
Yeah, but-
information on that customer, I'll look
Right.
into it and let you know.
But what I'm saying is, for me, and what I think what this is trying to do is, regardless of who requests, this would be more of a compassionate saying, if that landlord is trying to put somebody in 100-degree, 103-degree index heat out, this would say, okay, we have an agreement or an understanding with our parish and our city officials that we're not doing cutoffs right now in this type of heat. And so that's one of the things here, whether it's the owner, whether it's the tenant, whatever party it is, I think that's what we're trying to avoid, is having folks in life-threatening heat. Then I want to talk about the issue of the bills piling up. I get that, and if you actually read the resolution, and we'll get into that later, the resolution makes it very clear, and I've stated that is not this is not utility payment forgiveness. This is, you're still responsible for your bill, you're still responsible for the charges going forward, and we're making that clear on the front end that that is not what this is. It's not our job to be all things to all people, and that's never my goal and intent. But when we see that there is a problem and then there's inconsistencies across our community, what I'd like to see is us, as we did in a session a moment ago, have a level playing field. And so we've got folks who've got problems going on. We're not guaranteeing anybody. What we're saying is, let's take a moment to see what we can work on to come to an equitable solution. And that's all this is. It might come back, hey, this is the best that we can do. But I refuse to believe that our energy company is less than compassionate than the one in New Orleans with Entergy, who said, you know what, New Orleans City Council, we're gonna agree to not do this. We're gonna sit down at the table, we're gonna we're gonna reassess bills. And so I think if you're doing everything here, this should be something that y'all should actually welcome. So I don't quite understand the part about the bill piling up, because that's gonna happen whether we do this or not. That's gonna happen. The difference is they'll be cut off. And so,
Again, without knowing the specifics of the two cases you've talked about, I really can't comment on
Right.
that. And
I wouldn't expect you to.
And we'll engage on that as I get more information.
Yeah.
I can just say that based on our experience dealing with COVID, we see more problems for the customers if their bills are deferred 3, 4, 5 months, because those are the most challenged customers in many
well,
cases.
I think you're misunderstanding. Nothing in here says you're deferring a bill. It's saying you're not disconnecting. And so this is not about deferring the bill.
That was a discussion that we've had.
Yeah. Well, I want to give clarity because I wasn't here. I'm not asking to defer the bill, so I don't want you to go sit down thinking that I'm asking y'all to defer their payments. We're asking to not do disconnections right now. If somebody can give you $50, $75, $100 right now, I think, and they start right now on a payment plan as opposed to starting a payment plan 3 months from now, I think they're in a better position. So this is not deferment or postponement of payments. This is talking about disconnections. So that's where I'm at. It's about the disconnection part of it.
And I don't think I could be any clearer that we're not doing disconnects. We're working with every customer who they have to reach out to us. And if there's any way to work on payment plans, deferred payments, we're doing that right now, and we do it every day.
I don't know how you say you're not doing disconnects, and there's 2 examples right there.
Well, I'm not sure about that.
I imagine somebody
But
from SWEPCO
I
cut
look
it
forward
off.
to you sharing that information with me, and we'll sort it out.
Okay.
We good? All right, thank you, Commissioner Jackson. No one else on the board, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming down, Mr. Corbin. And thank you all for doing your best to keep us cool in a difficult time.
Thanks, Commissioners.
All right. Dr. Wilson?
Yes,
Well,
sir.
sorry, Mr. Clark, you want to carry us forward?
Oh, no, you're absolutely right. The next section is reports, where we have an administrative report, and Dr. Wilson did submit one. It's attached to your agenda, and if he's...
Okay.
Care
Commissioner
to
Atkins?
comment on any item on your report, Dr. Wilson?
Yes, sir, I have a few items today, sir. I'd like to begin with an update on the detention center. We have 22 children in the center. 7 belong to OJJ. We have 10 that are 17-year-olds, and we have 8 children over at CCC. The doorbell ring program will start on August the 5th, the installation of the doorbell systems, and that's being done by the Caddo Counseling on Aging Force. They're overseeing the program. The wheelchair ramp program application process will start on August the 8th, And the Caddo Council on Aging is also going to be doing that program for us. We reached out to the other folks, they were not available. The training program for the new NGO process, we've already conducted 3 training sessions. We'll have a makeup session on August the 8th for those who couldn't make the last 3 sessions that we had. I think it went over well and being received well also. At your stations, you should have a copy of the annual audit report for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021. And I'm pleased to let you know that there's no findings whatsoever or management corrective actions need to be done. In our financial report, and it's probably the 6th or 7th year consecutively we have achieved this milestone in our financial management of the parish's resources. Also, agencies for COVID awareness. We had 7 positive COVID cases for 2 out of the 13 agencies that we do business with. And the Caddo Parish Commission itself, we had 19 exposures from July the 1st to the 31st of July. So we have overall 4% uptick in COVID cases that we are reporting for the year to date. And that concludes my report, unless anyone have anything for me to respond to.
Any questions from Dr. Wilson? Commissioner Jackson, is that new on the board?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Wilson, if you could add to your, I guess, your COVID, and if it's, so I know Commissioner Epperson was the one that requested these, but
Yes,
if you could add monkeypox to that. I don't know if we are tracking that or not, but if you could at least add that as an aspect to it. I don't know if we even have the wherewithal or parameters to track it. If not, let us know, but it seems to be something that's kind of people are talking about, so I would imagine at some point we need to know about that as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Any other questions for Dr. Wilson? Seeing none, that brings us to communiques.
Well, actually, we have a master plan report, which is an item that had gone off your agenda for a while. There was a request to put it back on. I believe Mr. Jean is here today.
Ms. Clerk, point of clarification. We approved to have it placed on there.
Correct.
Well, it's by ordinance.
Absolutely.
Come on up, Mr. Jean. Thank you for coming in today. How are you?
Doing good. I don't have a formal report today. We are hoping to be able to restart the committee and get that going. And so once we do, we'll be able to bring a regular report to you.
Any proposed timelines?
I don't have that. I didn't. Mr. Clark and I didn't go over that before he told me he's not being here today. So I'm really not sure. But we'll get back with you pretty quickly.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Jean? Commissioner Jackson? Nope, that's old. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. That brings us to commission remarks, communiques, and other items related to the work session agenda.
All right. Is that the same? Is that an old Mr. Jackson or a new Mr. Jackson? Commissioner Jackson. Okay. Anyone else on the board?
I mean, I can talk if you want.
All right. Well, go ahead, Commissioner Jackson, if you've got a communique.
I don't have it.
Okay. Nothing for you guys? All right.
Not on the work session agenda.
No communiques today.
All right. That brings us to a president's report. Did you have a president's report today?
I don't have a detailed president's report, but I would like to recognize and show our appreciation for Ms. Barnett for all of her hard work on the audits and all the financials. You all do a wonderful job with keeping up with all that information. So thank you for your efforts there. Okay, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, that brings us to old business. We have no old business to address today, so we'll move forward to new business. Where the first case that you have is a zoning case appeal. Now, just for your reference, this is your first zoning case appeal that's coming directly to this body since 2018. Yet they were going in a different path for a while, and then with some of the changes that have come to the way that zoning things are handled in the parish. It has been a while since you've seen one of these, so I just wanted to call that to your attention. But this is a zoning case appeal for 22-3-BAP. That's a property located in 5247 Norfolk Road in Caddo Parish. The applicant is Mr. Dana Wheeler, who is the appellant as well. And that is a request for an approval of a yard variance for a detached garage. The Parish Zoning Commission voted to deny the application as it was submitted, and the homeowners appealed. There is going to be a public hearing scheduled, and you will be able to ask questions, do the public hearing, and have a consideration of final passage for that on August 18th. So that will be advertised similarly to how you would advertise an ordinance. So it's being advertised this week. It'll be advertised for the next 2 weeks and have a public hearing on the 18th.
All right, so this is just an
Can I make a
introduction.
motion so we can move on?
Pardon?
Can I make a motion so we can move on?
Second.
Yeah,
Or I
I'm
make a
just
motion to move this to the regular session in August 18th so that we can have the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion to move this to August 18th, where it would be a public session. And we have a second from Commissioner, the motion was made by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Jackson. Any other comments here?
For clarification, Commissioner Johnson, is that is your motion is to advance this as it's standard practice to advance to the 18th, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that you
Then
weren't.
on the 18th, we would either deny or grant the application.
Okay. Is the 18th a Thursday?
That's what's on here
Yeah.
on the
It
agenda.
is.
If,
It's your next regular session.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Now, can I
let's-
speak to my motion?
Yes, please.
I was gonna bring Stephen up so that he can give you an overview of what's going on. This is a case where you got two different neighbors, and there's some other neighbors that also have signed a petition against this. The property owner wants to build a 40-foot building in the front yard, which at present stands does not meet our code, and it would have to be a variance to one of our codes. So, Stephen, come on up.
And Commissioner Johnson, I guess is there a letter in each of our boxes from the neighbor?
You have this. I'm assuming. I have it at my station. I'm
Yeah,
assuming you
it's
have
in-
it at yours.
It was in my station, is that where it was? Or was it
Yeah,
my
it's at
box?
your station.
I think it's in our boxes, actually. In the
And we
mail.
will attach that digitally as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jean, go ahead, please.
So according to to our code, is you cannot have an accessory structure in a front yard. So what happened, there was an application to have a variance granted to allow that structure to be placed in the front yard. Initially, when we did the analysis, we determined there may be a hardship. The staff recommended approval. However, when we got to the hearing, there was all of the residents in the cul-de-sac. This is at the end of a cul-de-sac, on the property fronts on the lake. They were concerned that this was something that would be blocking their views, and would be because it's a cul-de-sac and it has. Many cul-de-sacs your lots start off very narrow, and then they widen out as they go to the lake. They were concerned this placed this too close to their property boundaries, and you had a very large structure. And so in all of our reports, when we send these forward, we always say that there could be something that is presented at the hearing that is pertinent to the decision that may go in a different way than what is recommended. And so after hearing all of that evidence, the Caddo Planning and Zoning Commission voted to deny that application. And so what you have in front of you is an appeal of that decision. Do you have any questions? Okay.
Seeing no one? Thank you, Mr. Jean. Oh, sorry, Mr. John, Commissioner Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. You said that thank you, Mr. Jean.
Yeah.
You said that the testimony in the hearing before the zoning board was that the neighbors in these, I'm looking at the cul-de-sac now, the neighbors in these surrounding lots say that their view is going to be impaired by a structure on this other yard.
Not the view of the lake, but the fact that they would be seeing this structure too close to their property boundaries in their front yard,
So they would be seeing,
this large
they
structure.
would just see a structure.
Right.
But it's
Whereas
not-
if
but it's
you had
not
a
in the way
normal-
of their view of something pretty.
I don't believe it actually obscures their lake view as much
Okay.
as it is something that is in their front yard
Well,
viewpoint.
in their neighbor's front yard.
Right, in their neighbor's front yard.
Right.
It's highly visible to them is
Okay.
where they're concerned.
It looks like on the map there's a bunch of trees around it.
There are some, when you actually go out there and look in the driveway, there are some trees, but where they replace it at, those trees would not completely obscure it.
Sure.
I think-
So
okay.
the neighbors only would tolerate it, it seems like, if it was completely hidden.
I think they would preferred it being in a different location further back. What the applicant was saying is that if you push it too far back towards the lake, then you have flooding issues. So that was
Well,
what
on
they were
this-
calling their.
On this drawing that I'm looking at, it looks like there's a garage behind it, and then the house, and then the lake. And there's nowhere else to put it except this one spot, if he's gonna build it.
Well, I believe there probably is some other locations, but those, from what the applicant is saying, is those locations would be prone to flooding.
Yes, we have a picture of his house flooded too,
Right.
right, and that's on the same.
And also, I think what was really some of the discussion in the meeting was the size of this structure. It's a rather large structure. It may have been something different had the proposal been for something smaller.
Do you think that he would be willing to build something smaller there?
I don't recall whether we actually had a lengthy discussion with them about that. That's something that we probably have to address to the applicant to see if they would consider something smaller.
Would it be appropriate for you to do that, or should our?
We can reach
administrator
out
do
to
that,
them.
Can I
think
just
that might be
clarify
good.
something
Thank you.
that Commissioner Young was talking about?
I'm
If you're looking at
finished,
if you're looking at the picture, the bird's eye view, looking down,
Yeah, this one.
that property that's sitting to the left of the house, that's his as well.
He owns both of these?
He owns, that's his property right
Right, that's
If-
the part that floods.
there. If you look at this, you'll see that's part of his property.
That part, is that part in the back, the part that floods?
That's what he said.
Is that it, Commissioner Young?
We can get an answer to that question, find out if they'd be willing to do something smaller.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Jean while he's up? All right, thank you, Mr. Jean.
Thank you.
Is that it, Commissioner Johnson? Are you ready to vote on this?
Ready to vote? Yes.
All right, let's have a vote on whether to advance this to August 18th.
Right, so that we can have the public hearing.
Please vote.
And Mr. President, who was the second on that?
Jackson, Commissioner
Okay.
Jackson.
Thank you. Just want to make sure I heard that right. All right, that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. And that brings us to the next item, which is to authorize the introduction of ordinance number 6247 of 2022. That's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenue and expenditure for the Building Maintenance Fund, Capital Improvement Fund, General Fund, Oil and Gas Fund, Public Works Fund, Detention Facilities Fund, Criminal Justice Facilities Fund, Health Tax Fund, and the Riverboat Fund for the year 2022 to terminate completed or lapsed capital projects and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Move to introduce.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hopkins, a second by, who is that?
Mr. Jackson.
Commissioner Jackson. I know we do this every year. I will ask Ms. Burnett to comment on this for us, just to educate all of us again on what we're doing here.
So every year, we do a task of just reviewing capital projects and then returning unused funds back to the source. So any money that's left over from a completed project or a lapsed project, we just return it back to the funding source of that project.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any, Commissioner Burrell?
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to know whether or not we have a comprehensive list of those projects and where they are. Is that, I did not see that in the information that was given.
There's an attachment on the agenda that gives you a list of the projects that are closing.
You see those,
Okay,
Commissioner?
they're among, let me see. I know, okay.
Probably the other attachment.
That's the
That's
one that says
exhibit.
attachment number one.
Attachment.
Now, those are just the ones that are closing. Let's see. I'll go back, Mr. Chairman.
Pardon me?
Okay, budget closures.
There you go.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Jackson?
Yeah, so these are going back, all of this is going back to the capital outlay fund, or are all these going back to these specific funds?
The money goes back to the funding source.
Where it came
Currently,
from.
it's sitting in the capital outlay fund, but we're not gonna use it for those purposes. So we have to send it back to the funding source.
Gotcha. And, I'll get with you offline on some of them. No, nothing big, I just got some questions for you. Appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Jackson. All right, I think we are ready to vote, Mr. Clerk.
Okay.
Hold on, 1 second, I think, do you have a question? You want to pick that up later?
Actually, I just
Okay.
didn't see the list of projects, maybe
Okay.
that's.
All right, let's vote, please, to forward this to the work session. To the regular session.
Commissioner Young and Commissioner Burrell.
Commissioner Young is away.
All right, that motion carries with 10 in support, none in opposition, and 2 absent. And that brings us to the next item, which is to authorize introduction of ordinance number 6248 of 2022. That's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the oil and gas fund for the year 2022 to provide an appropriation for relocation assistance and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Move to advance.
Second.
We had a motion from Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts, a second from Commissioner
It's over here.
Jackson, was it? Okay. Commissioner Gage Watts, would you like to comment?
Sure, I'll comment. I also like to add that Ms. Bernie Howard is here if you have any questions.
Okay.
Commissioners, as you know, we've assisted citizens in the past to avoid homelessness from substandard living conditions as well as domestic violence. This is to help to relocate them into a habitable environment where there are some who are currently living where there's raw sewage running through their faucets. They're dealing with rodents, no air conditioning, non-working refrigerators, mold, unfathomable things that are happening to our citizens here in Caddo Parish. This will not correct the problem across the board, but this will give a lot of assistance to those who are in need. The Providence House have exhausted all of the funds that were allocated to them, and they need additional funds to move forward. So I'm asking for your support in this ordinance.
Thank you, Commissioner Gage Watts. Commissioner Burrell?
Thank you, Mr. President. To the administration, is the city involved in this type of project too? Because I wanted to see whether there was a comprehensive list of projects, relocation projects that we could actually look at and see how we could actually par that list down. If the city is doing something with this, or if this is just us.
Want me to comment on this?
Yes.
Ms. Bernie said she can answer.
Yeah.
I think maybe I could add just a little bit of value. I'm Bernie Howard, Executive Director at the Providence House. What Caddo Commissioners are doing in terms of relocation assistance is different than what the City of Shreveport is doing. So we vet residents, and we have a questionnaire that we use to make sure that they live in Caddo Parish. We'll get income information. We'll ask specifically, is it for first month's deposit? So we're vetting the applicant. And the difference between what the commissioners are doing and what the City of Shreveport is doing is the percentage of the average median income. So with the City of Shreveport, if we're doing homelessness prevention or rapid rehousing, it's a 30% average median income. With Caddo commissioners, we can go up to 80%. And so what happens is it qualifies more people for relocation assistance than does the funding with the city of Shreveport.
But it could be the same individual, or they're separate individuals?
So it's for separate purposes. So the funding that we get from the city of Shreveport, for example, is for homelessness prevention and what we call rapid rehousing. That is completely different. So we can pay up to, for example, 6 months of your rent on the homelessness prevention funding. With Caddo commissioners, the max that we pay per applicant is $1,200, and it can only be used for very specific things. It's relocation, it's first month's deposit, if you needed a truck to move from one place to another. So they cannot be used for the same thing.
So the city does not do relocation, only the parish?
As far as I know, the city does not do relocation, or at least, let me retract that and say, Providence House does not receive relocation funding from the city. We receive rapid rehousing funding from the city, and we also receive homelessness prevention. The difference between the two with homelessness prevention, let's just say you are 3 months behind in your rent and your utilities. And so based on income, we can pay your rent for 3 months, we can pay your utility, we can also pay deposits if you're moving from one place to another. The goal is to prevent you from becoming homeless, so that it functions differently than just paying for you to relocate from one space to another, i.e. if you were in a Woodlawn Terrace situation and you were living in substandard conditions, then we could pay, this funding from the commissioners will pay for your relocation to a new space.
Well, I guess my only concern there was, if relocation is a problem that you all are dealing with, and then we are paying for relocation, then the city has a heck of a lot more money that you all may want to tap to help you in your efforts is what I
Sure, and I think that's a very good point. But so what we are doing, the reason we were vetted as one of the nonprofits to kind of manage this relocation assistance is because this is kind of what we do on a daily basis. We know how to vet, we have the applications, we have the documentations, and so whenever we submit back to the commissioners, I can assure you of how many people we served. We have all of their permanent records, all of those things that you wouldn't be able to do, in a daily basis because it's what we do. However, I think what the city is looking to do is really more long-term. Their solutions and resolutions around housing is really more long-term, whereas relocation is more of a short-term, on a shorter-term, immediate need basis. So if you needed to move tomorrow, I could, once vetted, we write that check from Providence House and we bill the parish. And so that's a really short turnaround time. Otherwise, I am billing a grant and waiting for reimbursement if we go through the city for long-term assistance.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. I don't know, Commissioner Jackson, is your question for Ms. Howard or someone else?
I mean, not that, but it's always good to see Bernie and
Thank
Wendy.
you.
I can't see under Wendy. Good group, great group. In fact, the award-winning ERAP program, they were community partners on our ERAP program, so I can attest to the great work that they do in our community. Bernie, can you give, you, and I always say this, you came up and you threw the alphabet soup out. ESG, rapid rehousing, can you give an example of what ESG or rapid rehousing would be? Can you give us because a lot of people up here don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just give us a quick example of what that would.
Okay, sure. So ESG is an acronym for Emergency Solutions Grant. That is funding that comes through the city of Shreveport via the federal government. And so we have ESG dollars, and then when I say rapid rehousing, those are for people, so the way that those funding pools are used, rapid rehousing means if Vernie Howard, if I were on the fringe of homelessness, meaning I am working, maybe I lost my job, I'm looking for a new job, I'm on job search, I have some level of income, and I am 3 months behind with my rent. So we would rather instead of that person coming to a Providence house, dislocating children from their schools, from normalcy, from their neighborhood, rather than come to a Providence house, a homeless shelter, and share space with 27 other families, we will use rapid rehousing money or emergency solution grants money to pay your rent for the first 3 months until you are able to get on your feet. So let's say you land a job in month number 2. You could come back and reapply for 3 additional months as kind of that padding, if you will, until you build up your coffers, if you will. And so with that, we are able to do rental assistance, but we're also able to do utility assistance. That was very interesting conversation because with utility assistance, we will pay all of your past due utilities, but the funding does not cover past due fees. We will not pay past due fees because the federal government does not allow us to do past due fees. So we can pay for your utilities to be connected if you've been disconnected, but we cannot pay past due. So emergency solution grant dollars are used for homelessness prevention, and they're also used for rapid rehousing. And so homelessness happens for different reasons. Homelessness prevention, and the reason I brought Wendy Bristow, she actually monitors and vets every phone call. So from soup to nuts, she's responsible for that whole process. And so here again, we're trying to prevent people from becoming homeless. So they may be working, but they received an eviction notice. So we are working with landlords across the city of Shreveport to say, hey, we have some funding. Will you help the Bernie Howard family? Give us a little bit of time so that we can prevent my family from becoming homeless. So they function in 2 different ways, but it is all federal government money, and the documentation is the part that is pretty exhaustive, but we've been doing this for almost 35 years now. So we vet, and I think the most important thing I want the commissioners to know is we are not just writing checks when we get a phone call. That is not what we're doing. We're making sure that we adhere to the federal government guidelines. We make sure that we have all documentation. We keep those files for 7 years. But more importantly, we are asking residents when they call, we are helping them with a plan. So if I am on the phone with someone and I hear a kid in the background, we begin by saying, hey, is your inability to find a job due to child care? Let us connect you with CCAP. You haven't been working because you don't have a skill? Well, we welcome you to the workforce development program. So we're not just trying to mend it or Band-Aid it for just a minute. We're looking for those long-term resolutions to some of these really glaring problems that we get to see every day.
Thank you, Ms. Howard.
Absolutely.
Ms. President, she stole about 3 minutes of my time.
Oh, you didn't tell me. I'm a preacher's kid. You didn't tell me I had a time limit. So you.
Good. They put me on a time limit up here. But I wanted everybody to see the difference in what she's doing at the city of Shreveport versus what this particular resource is. 2 different programs. This one is about relocating folks who are living in unsafe and unsanitary conditions and kind of helping them get to a safe place to lay their head. So this is different from what they're already doing. And so I wanted to make sure that we understood the differences there, that we're not duplicating any programs here. I know when we start saying, when we hear ESG rapid, we know what it means, but everybody else doesn't always connect those dots. And so I wanted us to make sure that we zeroed in on that. The other thing is that I liken this similar to the conversation we just had about utilities. You heard Ms. Howard just talk about utilities, and so none of this is meant to be long-term. All of this is meant to get folks sort of where you're not into that, because it happens. People shouldn't be in the, a lot of people shouldn't necessarily be falling into poverty, but when they're right there at that edge, they can't get that help. And next thing you know, they're in a system that they shouldn't be in. And so that's why these particular programs are meant to capture that before it spirals out of control. And so, and then the 80% AMI, that allows us, as she said, to capture more people. The 30%, I believe the City of Shreveport's program, so that's pretty extremely low income. I don't even know what it is, but that may be about $15,000 to $18,000
There's a significant difference, and we use the HUD income limit guidelines.
Okay.
The one thing I'll as a report I'll share, we received $37,500 for relocation benefits from the commissioners. We served 33 families from the month of March to July 1st, and I will assure you that we have probably a wait list of 60 people that are waiting, but we no longer have funds for relocation.
So that income threshold, it differs.
Yeah, it
and
does.
You would be surprised that 80% is basically that Alice population that we talk about, the people who wake up, go to work, put in 40 hours a week, but they're one check away from being on the poverty line. So that's why having that flexibility in these particular deals. I would like to see that if we decide to do this, and I know this is going to lay over, that when we get our additional ERAP dollars, if we get them, that we would reimburse from here. But I'll talk with Commissioner Gage Watts about incorporating that in, because I think some of that could be just reimbursed. But I think it's a good idea. I toured Illinois street apartments a couple weeks ago, and it's you'd be surprised at the conditions folks are living in, and so I think we need to do this and help those folks get to a safe, sanitary place to stay. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner, Ms. Howard, you all can have a seat, I guess, unless Commissioner Johnson has a question for you here.
No, Mr. President, I also would just like to add as a caveat, safe also means having their utilities on as well, and sanitary.
Well, without utilities, it's considered an uninhabitable
Right.
dwelling. So we couldn't move someone into a home or an apartment without utilities.
So I just wanted to throw that caveat in there.
We've
for later
got
comments.
several other commissioners with questions on this issue. We may ask you to come back up. You're free
Okay,
to sit
sure.
down, Ms. Howard.
I'll be right over.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to be added to the legislation since I was on the first round.
Okay.
I did the first one.
Is that it, Commissioner Johnson?
That's it.
All
It's a
right.
no-brainer.
Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. Commissioner Johnson, that brings up a good point. I was going to ask why the amount of 36,000. What was the first amount of the run? And because this looks
This is
like it's,
Commissioner Gage Watts' legislation.
Commissioner Watts, what was the original amount?
The original amount,
Do we know?
36 also.
36.
so this one is up to 36,000, Commissioner
Okay.
Chavez.
It was the same thing, 36.
And I just wanted to make sure, I know we adopted some NGO stipulations. Will this make it this year, or will it have to hang over till next year with our new NGO additions? This one will meet?
This is,
Because it's an emergency.
we didn't treat this like an NGO. This is a service that we asked Providence House to do on our behalf. That's not them coming to us asking for money. It's us going to them saying, hey, can you run this program for us? Can you do this
Awesome.
for
Okay.
us?
All right,
So
great.
that's the key difference.
That clears that up. And I think it's wonderful that Mrs. Bernie Howard is doing this. You guys are awesome. So I'm happy to see that. And then on the utility bill, maybe the guys in the back, if you could sit close to them before you leave, if we have people willing to pay, if they can waive those late fees and we get people's electric back on, I think that would be a great collaboration between the two.
They're not cutting off, remember?
Okay.
Yeah, they're helping bring some people back on. So if I know they can waive some late fees or some reconnect fees if somebody's standing with check in hand. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Commissioner Chavez. Commissioner Burrell.
Well, the last statement that Commissioner Chavez, he sort of cut into what I was going to ask, because Ms. Howard just said that they don't pay late fees. I know you get cut off if you don't pay your late fees. So how is that addressed? Maybe SWEPCO and some of the other utilities can help address that issue, because you will get cut off. I remember Ms. Peoples coming up. First thing that she said was about the fees, that they were exorbitant. So if they are exorbitant and they can't pay them, then they're going to get cut off anyway, even if you pay your past utilities. So we still haven't resolved the total problem, as I see it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Talferro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Howard, if you can just answer from there. I'm not familiar with what we do as a follow-up from the people that we rescue. In other words, I'd like to know more about what we do to hold the people that own the structures that force us to rescue people from those structures and move them someplace else.
Come on up, Ms. Howard.
I'm just not familiar with that. Maybe some of my colleagues are. I'm just not familiar with what's the follow-up and holding people responsible and accountable for such living conditions that put us in this position of funding to help you rescue those people.
And I wish I really could answer that question. I can tell you what I hold the people that we support accountable for. That's what we, so if we are paying your rent, your utility, we are holding them accountable for being the best that they can be, for making sure that they are looking for jobs, matching them with employers, helping them to get to a place where they can earn a living wage. We make sure that those kids are in school, that they have school supply. You know, so my liability rests with, you know, kind of ends with the client and their children and their responsibility, so that we don't do handouts, we do hand-ups. So with the actual facilities, I know what you're talking about, and it really is a tragedy to even imagine in the richest country in the world that we have people living in such substandard conditions. And sometimes people don't understand that they, number one, have a right to live in a better conditions, and they don't know how to have that fight. They don't know, and sometimes people just accept it because they believe, well, we are poor. And so I don't, so my job is to educate on that end. I do not know why a landlord would even think it would be acceptable to house somebody without, I'm not talking running water, I'm talking pipes. Just the pipes for running water.
Yeah, I think,
so
yeah,
I don't know the answer
that.
to the question.
And I understand your responsibility to your clients who we are trying to help out.
Right.
But I think what the term relocation means that we are seeing them in a bad situation. We're taking them out of the bad, trying to put them in the good, but what are we doing to alleviate the bad that they came from? That's my dilemma.
Yeah.
I think that's a common question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yeah, I would just say if you want to know about if we want to know about the follow-up and follow-through of organizations like Providence House, have y'all had a graduation recently?
We have had, and let me tell you, the sweetest thing, we had a children's graduation before we had the adult graduation.
Okay.
Because sometimes we forget when those kids are promoted to the next grade. So absolutely, we have that. We continue to do our case management. Even after they graduate, we stay connected to those families. We provide, like right now, school supply. You know, you think, well, families are trying to figure out how do I pay my utilities and how do I pay my mortgage and provide school supply. We are providing those school supply because of the generosity of just communities. So we track, if we have touched you, if we have provided any type of assistance, we can track, and it goes into our homeless management information system so that we can show that we are good stewards over, everything that's been given to us, so.
And do y'all still do the red door? Jim kind of got into a sidebar, but we trying to answer his question. But do y'all still do the red door?
We do Red Door, which is a tour of the facility. We just opened a calming studio, and that's what I'm most excited about, because we have kids that are traumatized by homelessness. I want you to remember I said that. They are traumatized by homelessness, but there are also kids with undiagnosed autism, undiagnosed developmental delays. They come to us, they've been homeless for months, they've slept on couch to couch, car to car, and then we tell little Johnny to go to school and behave and make good grades and, be the next mayor or be the next whatever, never understanding that he or she might be autistic. And so with the support of First United Methodist Church, we were in the city of Shreveport, we were gifted $40,000 to open the first state-of-the-art calming center in a homeless shelter in the whole country. And so that's where kids can come in and settle down. There are all these cause effects kind of things. We had it designed by the same designer that did the Department of Juvenile Justice. So that same calming center that those children are using there before they go to court, ours is, we have the exact same equipment, same designer, so that we can make sure that those children are really ready for school. And it takes a lot to move a kid. If you didn't know where your next meal was coming from, or where you were going to sleep, or if you were going to sleep anywhere, or if you were going to have the things that you needed. But we expect you to go to school and, you know, be a good student. I don't know if I could be a good employee if I didn't know where my next was coming from. So we are dealing with the whole child, the whole family unit. And again, not the violin, the sad story. Yep, let's get up from the sad story and let's have a case plan moving forward. And my job is to make sure that I have the best of the best in terms of staff members, the best team to help clients go from A to B. But in terms of the quality of the housing, I think it is the most deplorable thing that I've ever seen, and I don't know, I don't have the answer to fix that, which I think is your initial question.
But I would encourage you to go take a visit if you're trying to figure out what's that next step, because they do have a case management in place. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is that it, Commissioner Jackson?
That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Howard.
Okay, you're welcome.
Oh, I'm sorry. We've got
Just one quick question. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Ms. Howard. So if you find somebody in substandard housing, do you report that housing to any authority, like to property standards, or what? Just to follow up, does the government become aware of where the substandard housing is?
Absolutely. Number one, we report it to Child Protection Services, because if we have a kid that we think is living in substandard conditions, it is our responsibility to make that report. There's often an investigation that is done. So, and I'll give you one just quick example. There was a woman who called us. She and her daughter were living in a house, landlord-owned, just kind of slumlord, if you will. We brought attention to that story. Terrence Green was out there the same day, agreed with us, like this, nobody can live that way. We were able to bring that family into Providence House, kind of get them on their feet, make sure that the kid was okay, got her back into school, and found more suitable housing that she could afford. And that's one of the other problems, is just finding that affordable housing. So we report down and then up. And then if we find a kid that's in danger, we're definitely calling CPS, police, and then everybody will know if it's just substandard conditions. So that's our responsibility to report out.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Commissioner Young. Thank you, Ms. Howard.
Okay, you're welcome.
And Mr. Clerk, Commissioner Burrell notified me he'd like to be added to this legislation, and I think Commissioner Gage Watts welcomed that addition.
Yes, Mr. President, I would just like to add one point to Commissioner John Paul Young's question. Also, we have notified the Housing Authority, Louisiana Housing Commission, everyone who is responsible, the HUD has been notified as well about those substandard living conditions in these particular apartments that we're talking about, like New Zion and Clear Horizons. And it is being investigated. You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Clerk.
All right. And that
I guess we
brings
need
us-
to vote on this, don't we?
Yeah, we need to
Yes.
vote now, and it looks like they're starting to come in. And that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. And that brings us to our next item, which is to authorize the introduction of ordinance number 6249 of 2022. That's an ordinance amending the 2022 budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the capital outlay and oil and gas funds, and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. That is related to the Ronald McDonald Project and sponsored by Burrell, Chavez, Taliaferro, and Atkins.
Motion to advance for introduction.
I'll second that. Motion from Commissioner Chavez, second from Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Chavez, would you like to speak on your motion?
Sure, thank you, President. Commissioners, we met for economic development. However, we were not able to achieve a quorum. In case you wonder why it looks strange where there's Burrell, Chavez, Telfair, and Atkins as the co-sponsors on this. I welcome any additional, but what we're looking to do is help fund $500,000 over the course of 3 years for a Ronald McDonald home. What we've found is we have a situation where a lot of families will come here and their children will be sick. They'll be at the Shriners Hospital, Willis Knight, Ochsner, and the families cannot afford to drive in over and over again and help be with their children through their time of need. So the Ronald McDonald's house would like to open them up here. Willis Knighton already donated the land. It's in Southern Hills. And we'll be helping with the offset of the cost pending they get the other donations from the other organizations, which they're currently getting pledges for now. It'll be a term of $167,000 a year for a 3-year term.
Thank you,
President.
Commissioner Chavez. I do want to point out that the McDonald House team is here. Welcome, and I guess you all can take questions if any are raised. Commissioner Burrell, you're up.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to offer a substitute motion. As you know, I was on the availing side because we didn't have enough people to vote on this. I think it's such an important project. But I was able to reach out to some of the
Make your motion first, Roy.
other commissioners, and
You gotta make your motion first, Roy. You gotta make your motion first.
oh, I made the motion to a substitute motion to remand it back to economic development because of the importance of it.
Second.
Was there a second from Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
We have a motion to remand back to the economic development with a second from Commissioner Johnson. Now you can speak.
The reason being, I did reach out to some of the other commissioners, and they had some questions on it. They thought it was, a fine project, but they had a number of questions that I could not answer, and as you can see, my name is on there. And so I said it's only fair that if it needed further vetting, in which they all agreed it was a good project, appeared to be a good project, I think it would only be fair to do that and get better support, Mr. Chair.
All right. Do we address, Mr. Clerk, do we vote on this substitute motion now, or do we have discussion?
There is a motion and second, so you can have discussion or vote on the motion on the floor. I mean, but the substitute motion is the motion that's on the floor.
Okay, so we've got some other people who want to speak about it first. Commissioner Jackson.
I'll wait to see what the other discussion is gonna be.
Commissioner Johnson.
Since that motion has come up, so I don't have it on this motion. We're speaking on his new motion, right?
I am.
So we're speaking on the substitute now.
Well, speaking on the substitute motion, Commissioner
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. I had some reservations because, like Commissioner Burrell was saying, there were some questions I asked about the Ronald McDonald House. He said there was a income statement, and I see now that there is like an economic impact. One thing that I did kind of think about is we already have the Shriners Hospital here now. Families already spend the night in Shreveport, and there are some also outside assistance in them staying in hotels presently. So some of these families that are be coming in are already here now. They just be moving from a hotel to a Ronald McDonald's house. And then once that's full, then you're gonna be really going back to the hotels or vice versa. So the $1.2 million that's estimated to be the economic impact, I had questions about that. I see that it will hold like 20 families, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right now,
20
20,
family
22.
suites. And then I had a question about the location. I didn't know where the location was either because I wasn't at the committee meeting. And, is that location gonna be prime for assisting one hospital, or is it gonna be prime for assisting 3 hospitals? So, I mean, with Commissioner Chavez saying that it's gonna be in Southern Hills, there's Willis Knighton South. That's the only one that's in that vicinity. But when you're talking about the Shriners Hospital, Oshner's, Willis Knighton North, you got 3 major hospitals right there that it could better suit. I'm not gonna tell them where they need to put it at, but if you're talking about the vicinity and helping parents and those that will be children that will be hospitalized, because this is age restricted as well, as far as the child being in the hospital, not an adult, but a child. That it will better suit in an area that's close by, where if they don't have transportation, then that's another issue. And they could basically, if they was in that vicinity, that Ronald McDonald's house was in that vicinity,
they can actually walk back and forth to the hospital if they didn't have transportation. And I just want to make sure that we cover a lot of the questions that I had, and it might be some more questions that other commissioners might have as well. Also looking at, I've never been in favor of funding something over a term. So I think this is proposed to do 3 years, and got this year, next year, and this term is over with. And then the third year goes into the next term. That could be a whole different body that we've already allocated some money for them that they may or may not be in favor of. Yeah, it's true, they do have the opportunity to vote on it in the budget time, but it's already added to the budget, and it's a lot harder to take it out of the budget than it is to add it. So that's the questions I had, and that's why I would rather for it to go back to the committee. And there's a couple more, but I'll wait to the end.
I will just add that they are here and can answer most of those questions here today. But Commissioner Chavez?
Chairman, would it be, do I need to make a motion to suspend the rules to allow them to speak, or since they drove down from Texarkana, can we give them the privilege?
I think it's certainly.
We are in the work session.
Yeah, we just had a session with Providence House, so I would say we could give the Ronald McDonald House a chance to do a quick.
I'd like to offer up my time for them if they could come and speak on this.
Ms. Janelle, would you like to come up and give a quick overview of the Ronald McDonald project, including how many hospitals will be served, the total budget, the restrictions on our funding, the fact that our funding is restricted to you having to raise all the balance before any payments would be made, things of that nature. And welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Commissioners, for having us. I have my Programs Director, Donna Chunyo, and my Development Director, Emily Pihosky, here today. The Ronald McDonald House provides a free home away from home for families who have a critically ill child in the hospital. Just like you said, hotels. So imagine that your child's in the hospital for 3 weeks, and your husband has gone back home to work to maintain the insurance, and you are isolated in a hotel. Well, the Ronald McDonald House provides a community of support as well. So yes, you have a private suite. All of your meals are provided for you, all your daily essentials, laundry, just really everything you need so you can focus on your child. We are in Little Rock, and we'll be 41 years old this year in November. We have a 32-room house there that provides around 11,000 nights a year to families. So as we looked at this project, you have the budget numbers in front of you. We are in the feasibility phase, and that means that we are looking to the community to help raise the money and donate that. To build this house for the community. Just like in Little Rock, this house will serve all hospitals and provide nights for families in every hospital. We serve families with a child up to age 21. As we are in the feasibility phase, we are looking at gaining momentum at this point in getting donations and pledges. That money will be, as we receive it, will be kept in financial institutions here in Shreveport. It will be a Shreveport project to serve families that come to all of the hospitals here. Not every family is suited to stay in a hotel, so this really provides a community of support.
Well, thank you for that introduction. There may be other questions. If you can sit back down if you would, and we'll see if there are any other questions. Any other commissioners want to direct any questions directly to you. Commissioner Chavez, have you yielded, or are you still on the board?
I just want to add, the location is going to be behind the Wendy's in Southern Hills, in between the gym. I think you guys are familiar with the gym is. And that right across the street is the NICU at Willis Knighton, so for walkability, I know that was mentioned. But I think we had a great meeting at committee. I think Commissioner Jackson asked if they're going to use minority construction to help build this out, and she guaranteed as much as possible. But if there's a lot more questions, I think now's a good time. And the reason being is, Dr. Wilson, if I recall, there was a reason that we needed to get it before August. Am I correct? Was there something of a time restraint on this?
Yeah, I believe so.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Was there a time restraint on why we put this on here? I believe there was, and that's why we put it on here, because we lacked the quorum, but we wanted to get it on the agenda
We
because.
wanted to get, because they're trying to get a feel for how much they can raise through the community. And so it was just to be able to provide an answer to the organization as to whether or not the commission would help support it.
Okay. I yield back.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Chavez. Commissioner Hopkins.
Okay, this is, okay. I'd like to make a motion to introduce this ordinance today, but also send this issue to the Economic Development Committee to meet on August 15th? Before our next work session. That way we could at least get it introduced. It can lay over. I'm sorry, I don't need to talk anymore.
You meant regular session, not work session?
The 15th is a work session.
All right, so we have a motion from.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Hopkins to introduce it today so it can be started into the process and have a have an economic development meeting prior to the 15th to discuss it. And we had a second from Commissioner Chavez. All right, so that is our current motion on the table. Let's see, let's continue our discussion. Commissioner Jackson?
Yes. Since there have been two more, I can't make my amendments now, which is a concern to me. And so I'll just give my commentary. I see a lot of privilege being exercised here because I've never, since I've been on this body, seen us where we didn't have a quorum. We say, oh, well, you know, just everybody who was here, just sign on and we'll be okay. That is, it either came out of committee or it didn't. And so that's one thing that, you know, we're kind of operating outside of that balance that we've had. The other thing is that I did ask about local and minority participation, but that is not reflected in the ordinance. And we have never just said, oh, well, you know, we're just going to do that. We've always memorialized that in the form of our ordinance. I asked about MOUs. Commissioner Johnson asked about the location and proximity. I didn't know a location. Maybe I had missed that at the meeting, but I didn't know a location had been decided upon already. And so it is a concern to me that we have 3 hospital systems here that have pediatric, and we have primary care facilities here that have pediatric services. And so, but at least, well, really and truly, we have 4 when you count the VA. Yeah, about the VA, but I don't know if they have pediatrics at the VA. I'm not sure about that, but we have the other hospital systems here, and so I think memorializing that we need to have those MOUs and understandings in place. I just don't think that we should have anything operating that loose. It's too loose right now. I think it's something that the region needs. I think the region can benefit from it, obviously with the economic impact, but it has to be something that the entire region can have access to. We're saying that we're going to do those things, but I don't see it memorialized, and we've always, in our ordinances, memorialized these are our positions, We like to see local and minority participation. We like to see MOUs between those groups. And I still have a concern about the case management. I know, and they may be gone, but Bernie Howard and them can speak to her case management because she has a case management system in place. And so those are three things that I know I discussed. I thought it would be reflected in the ordinance, but I don't see it reflected or memorialized in the ordinance. And so I'm not at a point of comfort of saying I'm ready to support it until at least those things are memorialized in an ordinance. And I have preached down here that, you know, we have to take each other's word, but it always ends up being that we need to put it in writing. And so if we set that as our practice, we need to continue that as our practice and procedure going forward. So I'm not knocking this down. I wasn't aware of a time frame because, I mean, there are going to be other asks after this. We weren't the only, I thought we talked about not being the only public body, right?
Yes, so they're addressing other public bodies as well, Commissioner.
Right. And so
Yeah.
if you're talking about, just give or take, if you're talking about the city council right now, you'll be out of August because they've got to do 2 readings on it.
Yeah, I'm not
And
sure.
so you would be, have they started conversations with the city of Shreveport? And they're ready to put this on the agenda?
I don't know.
Yeah, and so you could be, well, the way their readings go, you could be out of August. So I don't know that the time thing is as much of an issue, because we also talked about going to Bossier Parish and DeSoto Parish, because they also reach over into our community and utilize our medical facility. So there were some other discussions about that. So maybe I stepped out of the room when we talked about the August deadline, but I wasn't aware of an August deadline. So I'd like to see us do something, but I'd like to see it be consistent with what we have done on large capital projects in the past. So that's all I'm asking us to do.
That's all
Thank
fair.
you, Mr.
That's all
President.
fair.
Thank you, Mr.
Commissioner.
President.
And perhaps those of us that were supporting the project got ahead of ourselves in assuming that everybody would be on board. But you're right, there are things that we need to document. So, you know, maybe we need to take a step back and think through some things. Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, I just had a couple other things to add. Is this funding for 2022 or 2023, the first amount?
Starting 2023.
It was started in 2022.
2022?
Okay.
Yeah, 2022, 23, and 24.
All right, so my my second question is, have they already put in the application, appropriations application? Have they done that yet?
Just isn't it, would it go through that process, wouldn't it?
It says economic development, so it went through economic development committee, so that should be appropriations done, and that's an application. So I'm asking, did the application get submitted? That's number one. A number 2 question. Third question is, the policy that we just voted on, that basically says that we wasn't gonna be amending any budgets after the window had closed, except for an emergency. And this does not count for an emergency. So I
But
was
we
gonna
were
wait to the
looking at
committee
it-
to talk about this kind of stuff, but I'm gonna bring it on out now.
We looked at it as a capital project. It's going into the capital project fund with a transfer from the oil and gas fund. So,
So, if it went to economic development and we want to say that it had an economic impact, then typically we state that it's a economic development project. Now we're saying it's a capital, so how is it capital to us as opposed to capital to a organization that wants to put this type housing?
no, it's economic development. That's the way we have to, in order to be able to fund it, it has to have an economic development impact.
All right,
I was
so,
just saying that we placed it, in order to be able to, when the commission recommended, or when the commissioners recommended that we carried over a 3-year period, we have to put that in the capital outlay fund in order to be able to do that. And those items, we don't traditionally consider the ones in the capital outlay fund as NGO, but obviously that is really a procedural issue from the commission as to whether or not you all deem this as one of your economic development NGOs and go through that process. Now, those procedures that we have put in place, we're doing for the 2023 budget, not the 2022, but
But
we-
I thought that was effective immediately.
it's effective for the applications you all approved starting with the
2023.
2023 budget.
But not for 2022.
No, sir.
So, I
Right, so
think
they
the
would have to
purpose-
still put in the process and go for the 2023 application period.
All
If
right,
that's
but-
what you all deem, not again, that's something that the commission would have to give us some direction on.
Okay, because my understanding of the reason why we revised the policy was to stop all of the ask for the rest of this year, and then have 2023 to be able to start anew and have the window open, and then people be submitting their applications, and then it closes again. Because for 23, it's going to close at the end of what, this month or last month?
August 15th.
All right, so that ends for 2023 on August. So we saying now that you're gonna keep 2022 open until whenever,
I think-
December 31st,
I think
So I'm
20
saying that
I
if
think-
you all determine that that's the way you want to go, when we prepared the ordinance, when we looked at it, we were not considering them as
An NGO.
the normal
NGO,
NGO.
right.
But if that's the direction you all decide to take, then yes, we will
I'm just
go-
trying to be consistent of what we've done. I mean, far as, they say it's economic impact, it went to Economic Development Committee. Typically, that goes through a application process, and it goes through that
We
way.
do have some that when you look at LSU, when you look at the ball field,
Yeah, the BFR.
that you just approved,
Mhm.
we did not, so we looked at
Well, they should have
those.
submitted an application.
Well, that's
my
perfectly
understanding, they
fine
should
if
have.
that's what the commission decides.
Okay, all right, that's all I had.
Well, I want to make sure that moving forward, that we, that we agree on what process we're using, whether it's the capital project or economic development.
Well, to me, a capital project is that something that the parish is desiring to do, and they go out and they utilize some other organization to do it and run it. When you talking about a private organization coming in and saying, well, we want to do this, but we need your money as support, that's, to me, is not capital outlay for us. That may be a loophole of what could be used, but that's not what I'm looking at as capital outlay. Because when we look at capital outlay, it's what the parish is doing to enhance the properties we have and move forward. But this is basically a organization that comes in, says they want to do this, and now we make it as a economic development / capital project. So
How did we, excuse me for going kind of off script here, we're trying to work through a problem. How did we label the softball field project?
well, the softball fields, we're gonna actually be utilizing those, if I'm not mistaken, through Parks and Recreation. I mean,
Well, but it's a similar type, of we're
But no,
supporting
no.
another organization in a capital project.
yeah, but at the same time, we still will be using them baseball fields as Parks and Recreation. They're gonna be events that the parish will be hosting there as well.
Well, we've
So that's a
got
little
the
different. We're not gonna be
Parish Health
hosting
Department
anything at
can
Ronald
be-
McDonald's house.
The parish health department's gonna be using this to, look after the sick and needy.
No.
I'm
No.
just saying, we can work out a
That's why I wanted to
project.
have this in the committee meeting, and we could discuss this in depth, and not here on the horseshoe in the floor. But, I just wanted to make sure that there are still some unknown things that we need to cover, and not just push this through.
That's fair, but also to be fair, we advertised an economic development committee meeting. Everybody was invited, so,
But, we all have, well, I have a full-time job.
I understand.
And this
And
is
I-
considered part-time, so if my full-time job calls for me to have a meeting or do something else, I'm gonna do what my full-time job
I understand
says.
that we all can't attend every meeting. It wasn't like we were trying to, pull the wool over everybody's eyes. I mean, it was
Oh, I'm not gonna
available.
let you do that.
Pardon?
I'm not gonna let you do that. I'm gonna say something. I'm not just gonna let you pull the wool over, or try to.
All right. Where are we? All right, Commissioner Gage Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. You actually have already stated that you agree and think that we need to move this back to committee. While I am in full support of this venture, this initiative for Caddo Parish, I see that there's a lot of discussion going on, still a lot of questions that are out there, and we do need to vet it out in the committee. So I just wanted to make that statement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, Commissioner Burrell, did you?
Call for the question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, so we have a call for the question from Commissioner Burrell. I think we're actually there anyway. May we just not go through the call for the question process? Okay. All right, so the motion on the board is Commissioner Hopkins' motion to introduce this issue today for the August 15th meeting with plans to have an Economic Development Committee meeting between now and then.
We're introducing it for the August 18th meeting.
August 18th meeting.
That's for adoption and public hearing. But that we have a economic development meeting at least prior to the 15th.
Okay.
To work out the issues, if we work out the issues.
Right, that's to work out
then
issues or
right.
any language.
Okay. All right, so that's the motion.
Point of
Commissioner Burrell,
clarity.
you're not on the board right now, are you? That old? Okay. We're ready to vote on this
Well,
motion.
my machine is broke. I'm trying to get on the board.
Unfortunately, the voting and speaking system just crashed.
Okay.
So,
Commissioner Jackson?
Yeah, no, I just was trying to see, so if we introduce it and then there are amendments or some changes, then are we
I have that concern too. We may be.
Are we integrating this into are we just gonna integrate that? Cause what I don't wanna do is I don't wanna get caught on the fly where we're like, okay, we're gonna schedule the Economic Development Committee meeting on the 18th or the 17th, and then the amendments come and y'all trying to get this together. I like to have my stuff, and whether we have a meeting or not, I'm gonna propose my amendments at some point. So regardless, I'm gonna make those amendments that I intend to make regardless. So, but
Would someone like to make a substitute motion that we can't have more than two?
yeah, that's why I couldn't make my amendment. So,
but as a point of
But-
order,
Todd, would you like to withdraw?
No, I think what I know exactly what he's saying. He's got some amendments he's gonna bring whether he agrees in committee or not.
okay, I see what you're saying.
I mean, so we can have our discussions and we may, if we do it by the 15th or before, we have the information to give to legal. Legal can insert the new language for that meeting. When they send the meeting response out, we'll see that language at that time, more than likely, if we have a meeting on the 15th or before. That's the key. We gotta meet before and get anything we want to legal by then.
Okay. Commissioner Gage Watts.
I just had a question to address what Commissioner Jackson's concerns are. I understand what Todd is saying. However, if that meeting is not before the 15th and there's going to be a lot of language change, would it affect the title of this ordinance, regardless to what Commissioner Jackson proposes?
No, there's no money or anything in the title, anything like that.
No.
Okay.
Hopefully Commissioner Chavez could call a meeting with enough room.
Okay.
ahead of time.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Are we ready to vote on Commissioner Hopkins'
Mr.
substitute
Chair.
motion? Mr. Commissioner Burrell.
If Commissioner Chavez called the meeting as a chairman, I would suggest that those persons who have questions about it, that we make sure it hopefully fit their schedule. Because if not, we just spinning our wheels, we're gonna get into it again to resolve those issues. Thank you,
Okay,
Chair.
good point. All right, I think the board is clear. Let's please vote on Commissioner Hopkins' resolution, or pardon me, substitute motion.
Does the machine work?
Commissioner Jackson?
I'm still making my mind up.
all right, that motion carries with 9 in support, 2 in opposition, and 1 absent. And that brings us to the next item.
Hold on a second, Mr. Clerk. Just for those in the audience, I want to make sure they understand that this issue will come back up for a vote on August 18th. but we will be scheduling an Economic Development Chairman, Chavez will be scheduling an Economic Development meeting to hash out many of these issues sometime between now and then.
I should have been a yes.
And
I should have been a yes.
you should have been a yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Jackson, you said
I
you
should have been a yes.
You admit to press yes, is that what you said? Okay. So
Okay.
that makes, just for the record, that makes the final vote 10 in favor, 1 in opposition, and 1 absent.
Okay,
I'm good with being the one.
pardon?
I'm good with being the one, though.
Okay, that brings us to the next item, which is to authorize the introduction of ordinance number 6250 of 2022. That's an ordinance to close and abandon a portion of the dedication for an unnamed road in the parish of Caddo and otherwise providing with respect thereto. This is in District 11.
Move to advance to Thursday.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Lazarus, a second by Commissioner Hopkins to advance to Thursday. Would you like to comment on your motion?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. This roadway was dedicated many years ago by a previous property owner. Property recently changed hands. New owner asked for this abandonment. Public Works has researched this, and all the interested parties have signed off. I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
The fact sheet is not in English. That's a text.
The fact sheet is not in English?
No, it's in Arabic, it looks like.
I'm sorry, which attachment?
The fact sheet.
Yeah. The one that's always in Arabic?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So this happens when, so the word perfect system that's used sometimes
Yeah, just fix it. We don't
uploads
need
wrong.
excuse.
It's fine.
If we could have this submitted in
Mr.
Word.
Clerk, are you able to translate for us?
Absolutely. That was my next question.
All right. Are we okay to move forward?
Yeah, you do it.
Okay, have we voted on, have we voted on this one yet?
You can now.
You can now.
It's stuck again.
Commissioner Hopkins?
Mine's, there it is.
All right, that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. And that brings us to, sorry, 1 second, let me make a note. That brings us to the next item, which is to authorize resolution number 37 of 2022. It's a resolution urging and requesting Southwestern Electric Power Company, American Electric Power Company Incorporated, and Panola Harrison Electric Cooperative to establish a moratorium on disconnection or shut-off of utility service to individuals and to otherwise providing with respect thereto.
I move to advance to Thursday.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Jackson, a second from Commissioner Burrell to advance to Thursday. Commissioner Jackson?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. As I heard, I came in late, but I heard some conversation saying that SWEPCO is already doing this. So if that's the case, I don't think that there should be any heartburn about it. We have resources that are coming similar to what we discussed with the relocation assistance. So I think this will give us some consistency across the board. I also have talked with some folks at the Citizen Report, and they're going to request. We're not demanding, we're simply requesting that they work with us on a moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you. And if it's okay with you, Commissioner Jackson, Commissioner Burrell would like to be added to your resolution?
Absolutely.
Mr.
I'll be
Clerk?
added as well, Commissioner Jackson.
Anytime.
Storm and Gage Watts as well.
Just for the
Chairman Gage
record.
Watts, Commissioner
just for-
Jones.
Just for clarification, there never has to be a request because our charter allows for anybody to sponsor a resolution.
I think it's a common courtesy.
I know, I just want us to know legally that if I'm not here or something.
Okay.
You can.
Just to recap that I heard that right, that was Commissioner Burrell, Jones, and Gage Watts?
Yes.
Put me on that too.
Okay.
All right. Let's vote.
All right, that motion carries with 9 in support and 2 in opposition, and that leaves 1 absent as well. So that brings us to the next item, which is to authorize a special resolution of remembrance and respect for Bishop Fred Caldwell Sr.
Move to advance.
Second.
A motion from Commissioner Johnson to advance, a second from Commissioner Gage Watts. Commissioner Johnson, would you like to comment?
I just want to be added to this one as co-sponsor.
Likewise.
All right, so we have Mr. Clerk, we have Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Burrell, and Commissioner Stormy Watts requesting to be added as co-sponsors.
Jackson as well.
And
Commissioners
Jones.
Jackson and Jones.
Everybody?
We'll all vote for it.
Yeah.
Well,
All
for
right.
everybody, I mean,
So, are we ready? Commissioner Johnson, did you have a chance to comment on your motion?
I'm good. Let's just vote.
Okay. We're ready to vote, Mr. Clerk.
Okay. That motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. That brings us to the next item, which is to advance authorizing the consideration of the recommendations of the Property Standards Hearing Committee. And those are on 2 cases. One was in District 9, one was in District 2. They're
Move to
listed below.
advance.
Second. Any need to comment?
No, the committee went through this, and I think the recommendations are true to what needs to be done.
Okay. Thank you. We're ready to vote, Mr. Clerk?
Yeah, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and global the authorization of Mr. Singh to the Broadband Committee.
Second.
And global introduce.
All right, introducing Globo, item 11-8 and 11-9. All right, we had motions, and I think we're ready to vote on this.
Okay, that motion carries with 10 in support, none in opposition, and 2 absent. And then that brings us to that brings us to Communication Committee reports.
Anyone on the board besides me? Commissioner Jackson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Wilson, I have included you on a text message and email about the cat. Is Kelvin here? Cats, the cat community situation and the issue in my neighborhood. Yeah. Hey, Kelvin.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hey, this issue centered around cat communities and individual cat owners. And I want to thank you and your team for your patience and your diligence. But there's a growing concern, and this issue has aroused on my street now, where you've got cats running loose. You have folks who did not buy a cat having to deal with cats. And as one person put the analogy to me, a person buys a cat and it ends up in their yard, and then they're responsible for cleaning up, spraying, and all this other stuff that they never signed up for because they didn't purchase a cat. And the analogy they used was, well, if I buy a car, it breaks down, it's leaking, and I go park it in somebody else's car, can I still hold them responsible for the broken down car parked in their yard that I bought that they didn't sign up for? What is our ordinance and what is the issue here? Because if someone did not purchase a cat or a dog or an owl or a bird,
Right.
or whatever, or a lizard or iguana, should it end up in somebody else's property? And you looking at that, Dr. Wilson, you want to answer that for him, or?
The answer is no.
But I'm trying to figure
That's a
out
no-brainer.
where are we going, and
Yeah.
it seems to be some looseness or some vagueness around what's going on, what we have on the books. I'm sorry, y'all, my bad.
No, that's fine, sir. So this ordinance came out basically in November 2017.
I was on the commission.
Starting out just for Broadmoor.
So I was on the commission when this.
Yes,
Okay.
then it got adopted in chapter 14 of Shreveport. So the latest ordinance for Shreveport, April 25, 2022. So basically, a community cat can't be considered at large or a stray. Granted that it gets ear tipped, that means it gets its first round or a round of rabies vax. Typically, you will have what you call a community cat caregiver. That person is not the owner of the cat. That person cannot be held reliable for the cat. They feed the cat. You could have multiple community cat caregivers on the street. We try to encourage neighbors to talk about who's taking care of these cats. Do you have deterrent measures to keep these cats out of neighbor A, neighbor B's yard if they're not cat people? Because when we get a TNR cat, trap, neuter, return, that cat normally goes back to the neighborhood. But I will tell you that nuisance doesn't exempt a community cat either.
Say it again.
Nuisance, if it's a nuisance,
Okay.
it doesn't exempt that community cat.
Okay.
So what we'll do, if this cat is causing an issue, we need to ask the question. I think that was the problem. Does it belong to neighbor A, or is it a community cat? If it belongs to the neighbor, then let's go ahead and try to put rabies tags on it and see if we can place it inside.
And I believe Brandon tried that, right?
Right.
And has not been successful.
We have 2 that has been spayed, neutered, and put back. So I don't know if the problem is still going on. If the problem is still going on, we could try to sit down and see if this individual or individual can stop the deterrence. Because there's things people can put down. I don't know if everybody wants to put down coffee grinds, lime peels, orange peels, cat mats. There's deterrent measures to keep cats out of your yard. But if that's not working and everybody's not on page, we can come up with something else.
Because I also got a complaint off of East Lister Street in sort of the Highland or Waterside neighborhood where there's a larger population of cats. And the lady told me that she has an issue, and so this came off of East Lister Street where
Right.
the cats are roaming.
Right.
And there was a community cat or whatever. The person who I guess started it has now moved away or is no longer there.
Right, and that's the problem that we normally face, is that these people that raise their hand to be this community cat caregiver, it's easy because you're not
They just
really
walk
held
away.
liable. They can walk away, and then the colony gets out of hand. Because the TNR program works because another cat typically won't come in if you already have a colony. A healthy colony is at least 5 cats. But if nobody is policing the cat colony, then you get these calls and these situations that we're dealing with now to where you end up with 30 cats on the street.
So whose committee would this be?
That's
Who's chair?
Commissioner.
Animal Services Committee.
Yeah,
Who's
Commissioner
chair?
John Paul. We can revisit it if
Could
you, if you all would
Mr.
like.
Chairman, could we possibly revisit? Because I've spoke to you about the situation in my neighborhood, but then there seems to be a broader situation that's out there about the community cat colony. Am I saying it right?
No, you're right. You're
There
right.
seems to be a broader situation about how they start, how they're managed. People can just kind of walk away from it, and then the nuisance aspect of it. And I'm not saying that we should abandon the community cat colony altogether, but I am trying to see how we can probably, and I don't know if y'all have any ideas or thoughts around maybe some more accountability for the community cat owners, those persons who raise their hand to say, I'm going to do this. But I just don't think that folks should be able to just walk away from a responsibility in that manner. I do understand the benefits of having
Right.
the feral cats.
Right.
So I get that totally. But I also am mindful that other people live in neighborhoods as well. And
That's fair. That's
I
fair.
haven't gone by East Lister to see that issue. I plan to go by. If not today, tomorrow morning, to take a look at it. But the situation she described seems to be pretty bad. So,
Okay.
but I don't know if we can get a conversation with the Animal Service Committee about that.
We can talk about that in committee. Also, all those cats are required to be spayed and neutered now.
Yes, they
So
are.
They should all be spayed and neutered.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So-
but if we could definitely get a conversation around, I guess the responsibility.
Absolutely.
And I guess that's where I'm going at, is the responsibility for that community cat community. So,
We can revisit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I look forward to, I don't think I'm on that committee, but, and when I say Mr. Chairman, I'm talking about Chairman of the Animal Service right now. If I could, I don't think I'm on that committee, but if I could be notified of it, please let me know so I could be there to give thoughts or sit in on it. Appreciate it, Kel.
Yes, thanks.
The other issue, Dr. Wilson, I would like to schedule 2 redistricting sessions. I know that we had 2 of them down here.
Yes, sir,
But I did talk to you a couple of weeks ago about in my district, and we had to reschedule because Mr. Floyd was out of town. We were gonna have one in Stony Hill, but he couldn't make it. So if I could get your help and the commission clerk's help in scheduling that.
Yeah, we did put him on notice on that, sir.
Okay.
He's aware.
Okay, and
So,
I'd also.
We didn't know what.
And if any other commissioner.
Yeah, any other commissioner wanted to do a public forum.
Gotcha.
We did ask Mr. Floyd to accept that opportunity.
Gotcha.
And I do have a list of those commissioners who've, and you are on that
Gotcha.
list. Of
And what kind of
commissioners.
bribery do I need to do to have you have IT to come record and film? Do I need to buy your lunch or?
No, it's going to be a Superior Steakhouse dinner.
Do I need to?
But anyway, we'll work it out. Sir.
What do you need me to do to get
We'll work it out.
the video people there too?
We'll work it out.
Gotcha.
Just let us know when.
Because I know they're willing to come. I just got to get your permission to
Yes,
do
sir.
it.
We'll work it out.
Okay. Appreciate it. That's it for me, Mr. President.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, Commissioner Jackson. I'm gonna take a little presidential privilege and jump ahead here, just because I don't want to lose any more people before I comment on the Ronald McDonald House project. I apologize if Commissioner Chavez and I got ahead of the game. We thought that it was a good project. You know, there were a lot of people out of town. They had a timeline. There was a time constraint that was represented at the time. I think she was just trying to figure out where they were. So I apologize if we didn't check all the boxes, and we'll loop back and try to get everybody on board with what we need to know there. So that's all I had to say. That
Tell them
brings
don't
us-
lose any sleep.
Pardon?
Tell them don't lose any sleep. I think they'll be good.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Samuel, if you all could email me an update tomorrow for Ms. Coleman, the situation I think Mr. Everson emailed me about last week. If you can just email me an update. You don't have to come back up so I can kind of detail it if you can for me, you know, when we went by and all, because my more senior constituents like details. They want to know when we came by and, you know, all that good stuff. Appreciate it. I'm sorry. Good? You good?
He says he got you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Also wanted to make note tomorrow at between 5:30 and 7:30 at the Morning Star Baptist Church. Taking it to the streets will be out tomorrow that's our Park and Recreation mobile fitness and health program. They'll be at Morning Star Baptist Church tomorrow between 5:30 and 7:30, and also on the 13th they'll be at Caddo Heights Elementary School from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. And that's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it looks like our speaker queue just got erased. Who else is on the board? Commissioner Burrell. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Burrell, I think Dr. Wilson was on. May I give him a shot?
No.
Okay. Dr. Wilson.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Axe, I appreciate it. I didn't want the opportunity to pass without me first clarifying the achievement on the audit report with no findings. And I'd like to give Ms. Haley Barnett credit and her team, as well the directors who worked to make sure that all that happened the way it did. Because in spite of the fact that, yes, sir, I appreciate that, in spite of the fact that she had a lot going on her plate, the ERAP, which was a full-time job in itself, so, but to not have any RAPs at all is a still a remarkable accomplishment, and I do appreciate that, Ms. Haley, for your work on that.
Take a bow.
That's all I have, sir.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wilson. Commissioner Burrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to comment on a recent trip that we went, that we had gotten back from NACO, which was a very nice conference. Really enjoyed it. A lot of useful information, especially on broadband and some other issues that were there. And speaking of broadband, we just got an announcement. I may not be exact, and Woody, you may correct me on this, but On the first round of funding from the Gumbo grant, Comcast, I think, was awarded about $9 million.
Yeah, it was a total of 14 million between CSC and Comcast.
About 1.3 or something like that.
Yes, sir. I thought it was a total of 14 million total.
That's close enough for me. But anyway, given the fact that they have made that award, now we can start moving forward. I know a lot of people.
That's to fund rural broadband build-out?
That's for broadband deployment, whether it's build out. I mean, we have to first determine the process, how we're going forward. And I'm hoping to meet with our committee group that we have and kind of orientate them first, and then also look at whether or not we need to engage a consultant to try to help us in this process, because although we have expertise here, you know, in the parish, but for something of this size, we definitely need some sort of consultant. And I was able to meet some while I was at NACO across the nation. Second thing I want to mention is the Natural Resource Committee. We haven't met because we haven't had anything to bring forward other than orphan wells. And I want to ask the administration to see if they can give us an update on that. It appears that they don't want to come and meet with us. So I guess the only thing they're doing is sending in a report. On the Waterway Commission, the Red River Waterway Commission, Mr. President, you might want to send a letter, because since I was on there, I don't want to think I'm picking on them. But I did see the director at our 6L softball tournament. I asked him, I said, well, we requested you all to come and give us an update, a report. And he said, well, you have a board member. So I take it that he was saying that your board member should give the report, not the director. But we asked the director, and the director said, we asked the board member, and the board member said that the director should. So it seemed like we have some conflict here. I just need for you to get involved and see where this thing goes. You know, we may have to replace our board member, or, and I still got a few connections down at the state. I can give the governor a call and say that your men are not doing what they need to do, or the senator who actually approves the board member.
Okay.
So we have avenues, but I think that we need to kind of get a report on where we are, because there's some important things that are happening on the Red River, and I think we need to know some things. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Chavez, are you on the board?
Thank you, President. Yes, we'll go ahead and call a Economic Development Committee meeting this Thursday at 1:30 p.m. I'll have Mr. Everson send out a message. And I didn't want the day to pass without us congratulating Commissioner Jones on his election by not having an opponent, which obviously shows that he's doing a good job in his district. Congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioner Chavez.
Absolutely. Thank you, President. That's it?
Commissioner Chavez, first, thanks for your quick reaction on getting this Economic Development Committee meeting proposed, but do you feel the need to check with anyone's availability? Or
I checked with her before she left, and she can make it.
What about the commissioner
Well,
to
we
your
do
side?
have 2 other committee meetings scheduled that day, as well as a regular session. So Commissioner Chavez is
Sandwiched right in the middle.
sandwiched in between the two, so it should work for, you know.
Thank you very much. So 1:30 on Thursday, August 4th. Thank you. And that's it? All right, anyone else? Commissioner Hopkins?
And that was just to remind everyone, we do have a long range at noon on Thursday. So we'll meet first long range and then go to economic development.
And then there is also the Appropriations Committee is scheduled on Thursday. And then just as a reminder, you do have an Audit and Finance Committee meeting scheduled on Wednesday. That's to review an audit. And then we are proposing the first meeting of the Citizens Advisory Broadband Committee on Friday, pending a few more availability confirmations, but it looks like that may happen.
So Wednesday, we have audit and finance at noon.
I believe
You
that's
said-
at noon. Yeah, let me double check that. Yeah, okay,
No,
yeah,
that's
noon.
right. But you had another, so on Thursday, we have long-range planning at noon, economic development at 1:30.
And then this one has not, this one was from Commissioner Johnson, would like to call the Appropriations Committee at 2:30.
Okay.
And the one on Friday, the broadband, is at what time again?
We had said tentatively at 11:30, and I'm still polling the members to see if that works for, roughly enough to get a quorum.
Okay.
So but we're looking at Friday at 11:30 on that one.
Okay. Anything else, Commissioner Hopkins? Anyone else on the board? Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right. Thank you all for sticking it out. Congratulations.